Welcome to Mobility Insider. I'm Morten Hannesbo. Our channel is not sponsored. All of the views and conclusions in the video are based on me having worked in the automotive business for 35 years. My recent video on the Range Rover review after 15,000 kilometers resulted in a number of interesting questions from you, and today I would like to take the time to answer the 10 most interesting questions that you raised. The first question is about the DC charging of the Range Rover P510e. Normally plug-in hybrids will charge with about 11 or 22 kilowatts, but special about the Range Rover plug-in hybrid is that it will charge with up to 50 kilowatts. That's quite a high speed, and that means you can charge the battery from 0 to almost full in about 45 minutes, and then you have another 80 to 100 kilometers of electric range. So the recipe for fast road tripping with the Range Rover is leave it in hybrid mode and let the machine do the work, and you'll be astonished how economical this large car is. The second question is about the consumption. I'll put this into two chapters. First, let's talk about the electric consumption. You'll get about 100 kilometers of range with the Range Rover plug-in hybrid. The battery has a net capacity of 31.8 kilowatt hours, and that is then telling you that the consumption is about 30 to 32 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driving fully electric. That would be in summer temperatures. In winter temperatures, expect that to drop about 25% because the heating is then made by the electric powertrain. Second, petrol consumption. On average, 4.5 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's over a distance of 18,000 kilometers. But now on a recent trip to Italy, I couldn't charge the car, so I had to use the petrol engine only. And there I had a consumption of 9.3 liters over 100 kilometers on average. That was based on 1,400 kilometers with a fully loaded car with a cargo box at the rear, so maximum load. And still I had a relatively low consumption of 9.3 liters per 100 kilometers. But you see, overall, if you use the electric powertrain, combine that with the engine, you will get a quite low consumption, in my case, 4.5 liters. Question number 3 is about residual values, which is a topic that is often discussed when we talk about Range Rovers. Now, the L460 is only about 2 years in the market, and it is still in short supply. That is, of course, supporting residual values. A 1-year-old L460 will be about 15% below the list price, and that is quite a good performance so far. The L461, the Range Rover Sport, however, has a slightly worse depreciation curve. And why is that? Well, I think because it's very much the same design as the previous model, whereas the L460 is very different from the previous model, the L405. And the second thing is that the Range Rover Sport, there's just a lot more around and the choice is bigger, and that will put a pressure on the price, and hence you'll have higher depreciation on a Range Rover Sport than on the big Range Rover. Range Rover keeps improving their cars, and there was a power upgrade in 2024 for the plug-in hybrid, so the power output went from 510 horsepower to 550 horsepower, and that was because they changed the electric motor. And will that have an impact on residual values? Well, it is likely to have some impact, but we have not seen any yet. So what is my view on the residual value depreciation for the Range Rovers? Well, I looked at the L322 data, and I also looked at the L405 data, the previous models of this one. And in general, you'll have the 15% drop after the first year, and then you'll have 2 years with about 10% drop. So there you have lost about 1/3 of the value. And after 3 years, it will then keep declining at a fairly high pace. Question number 4 is, will the new electric Range Rover affect the demand for plug-in hybrids? Well, first of all, what do we know about the new Range Rover Electric? It will be in the dealer showrooms at the end of 2024, at the beginning of 2025. It's likely to have a very large battery, about 116 kilowatt hours, and a range of about 600 kilometers. It will weigh about 2.9 tons, and it is also very likely to be expensive, probably around 200,000 Swiss francs. And then it will challenge the Mercedes EQG wagon for the position at the top of the segment as the most expensive SUV with an electric powertrain. Now, will it affect the demand for plug-in hybrids? Actually, I don't think it will. I think these are two different segments. And also the electric Range Rover will be very expensive, and it's still quite a large car, so it's not suited for town anyway. So I think after the initial strong demand that we'll probably see and early adopters who will buy it, when that has settled, you'll have a normal demand curve for the electric Range Rover. And I think that the plug-in hybrids will keep selling really well. Question number 5 is about which model to choose. You can choose between diesel and petrol and plug-in hybrids. And I think the best choice is the plug-in hybrid. They're all very good engines, but with the plug-in hybrid you get the best of both worlds. You can drive through town electrically, very quiet, and on a long trip you can use the petrol engine. And using the hybrid powertrain you also get a very low consumption, as I mentioned in my case, about 4.5 liters on average over 18,000 kilometers. So that would be my recommendation. Question number 6 is about the service and maintenance of the Range Rover. The service costs for your Range Rover very much depend on how you drive the vehicle. The vehicle would analyze your driving and it will tell you when to make the service. It is likely to be at 30,000 kilometers for the first time, but it can also be before that. It all depends on your driving. In my case, I expect 30,000 kilometers to have the first service, and for this vehicle, that is free of charge. That is a part of the vehicle price. The second service, likely to be at 60,000 kilometers, is probably going to cost about 1,000 Swiss francs. Question number 7 is about importing vehicles from another country to save money. Now, I'm sure you can find cars in, say, Holland or Germany, where you have a large selection of vehicles and where the prices may be lower. And you can probably save up to 20% or at least 10% if you do that. Now, personally, I would not recommend importing cars in this price range because you're likely to have some technical issues with the car, and under warranty, of course, it is covered wherever you bought the car. But after the warranty has expired, you need the dealer to show some flexibility. And it's got to be very difficult to convince your dealer in another country to repair your car free of charge if it is outside the factory warranty. So I always recommend you buy your car in the country where you live and where you plan to use it. Question number 8 is about how to best use the electric powertrain. What I recommend you do is to drive the car in hybrid mode and charge the battery at home to 80%. Now that doesn't really fit the way I use my car. So what I do is I very often drive in the EV mode, fully electrically, and I also charge the battery to 100% because that gives me enough range to get to work and back on a full charge. And during the week, I then actually do not use the petrol engine at all. Question number 9 is, did I experience any issues with the Range Rover? Well, I did have some software issues and I explained those in the previous video. But in terms of hardware, I did not have any faults, not whatsoever, not even a puncture over these first 18,000 kilometers. Last but not least, question number 10, would I recommend a friend to buy a Range Rover? Yes, I would. And I often do as well, because the Range Rover gives you a very special feeling when you drive it, and that doesn't matter if you buy an old one or a new one. But let's talk about the new one first. They're quite expensive, but if you want the Range Rover world, I think it's something that you really should consider. But also do expect to visit your dealer now and then, even if you have a fairly new Range Rover. Talking about used Range Rovers is probably a little bit more tricky. If you can buy one and you have a warranty with the car, I think you're quite fine. If you don't, make sure you test drive the vehicle on a long test drive, 50 to 100 kilometers, and then make your judgment. In any case, driving a Range Rover will cost you a lot of money over time. Is it worth it? I think it is, but you should budget for expenses that can happen every month or every quarter. That's just the way it is. These were the top 10 questions. Thank you for watching Mobility Insight. I hope you liked this short video. Give us a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and put your questions in the comment section below, and see you in the next video.